Hey guys, what's up? It's Dan here.
And I'm Deandra. You're listening to College Declassified. This podcast is centered around providing you with educational tips to get you prepared for all aspects of college.
That includes FAFSA help, college success tips, test-taking strategies, scholarships, you name it.
We'll be sitting down with experts
to talk about how to help you succeed before and during college. We hope you enjoy listening to College Declassified.
Hey everybody, welcome back to College Declassified. How you feeling today, Dan?
I feel stupendous.
Oh, you do?
I do.
So you must have had a really great week so far.
It's productive.
Productive.
You know?
I agree.
Some good, some bad, but hey.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Exactly. You just adapt.
New mic stands on the horizon.
Period. I know y'all see him.
You know?
Well, for those who are listening, you know.
You can't see him.
You can't see him.
They fire though.
Right. So make sure y'all go check out the video if you want to see it.
Yeah, man. YouTube.com/Facia Trio.
Yes. So today we are going to be talking about things that nobody tells you in college. So we finna spill the tea, y'all.
Nobody tells you, bro.
So we do want to start out the podcast with a couple of announcements first before we dive into things. So first things first, it is November, so hopefully you have filled out your FAFSA. If you have not, then you can FAFSA. I can't say FAFSA.
FAFSA.
It's weird saying it that way. So FAFSA.
There was a tweet like that. They were like, FAFSA.
Yeah.
It was like black people
say
FAFSA.
I mean, it's easier to say it that way.
Easier to say that.
Okay, but I'm going to say it the correct way. So if you have not filled out your FAFSA, then you still have an opportunity to do that. You just schedule an appointment with us by going to calendly.com/Facia, and we will take care of that. We can assist you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Okay, let's get into it. So the first thing we want to, y'all already know how we are. We start out the podcast with a question. So the question is, what will college look like in 10 years? What do you think it'll look like in 10 years?
I don't think it'll exist how it exists now.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
College is getting more expensive year by year. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming really unaffordable. Not even becoming, it is unaffordable for the average family in America. And with the rise of so many different social media platforms and internet apps and mobile apps, it's just becoming easier and easier to get information, so
right.
I mean, I think families are going to start raising the question, really, when businesses stop requiring a college degree for jobs. I think, that's when the college bubble will burst. I think there will always be a need for schooling when it comes to lawyers, doctors, people in the medical field. But for people like us, graphic designers, filmmakers, I think, there's going to be some more competition, even things like accounting and like what's some other ones?
Like business? Did you mention business?
Yeah, majors? Like businesses and entrepreneurship. Like there are going to be some things that really compete against colleges as far as information, like YouTube. Like we call it YouTube University already. Right.
Because it is. It's so easy to find something online.
Anything you want to learn how to do and master, you can do it on YouTube. And you have things like LinkedIn Learning and Udemy
and TikTok now. Because that's where a lot of people find some information too. Yeah. Of course, like you'll go and do some research to find out if that information is true. But typically, you can find information on the internet. It's so easy today.
Yeah, that's so true. So that's my opinion. I don't think college will exist how it exists today. And I don't think the numbers will be as high as they are.
Yeah. It used to be like a super high achievement. Like a lot of people used to like really do their best to get their degree. But like you mentioned, like entrepreneurship is like becoming the new norm. So a lot of people are just opting out of college, but
that's true.
We still suggest you to obviously go.
Right now in today's world, I'm not saying from my college, my high school freshman and sophomore. No, we still want you to go to post-secondary, continue your post-secondary, which means your education after high school. It may not be college, but it might be trade school or a certification that gets you into a career field. Because even though I think in 10 years, it'll look a lot different, today, currently, college is still very much, the same.
Right. So I actually found an article. I'm glad that you brought up the tuition thing, because I found an article on northwesternmutual.com, and an advisor actually says that he assumes that tuition will go up 5% each year.
Jesus.
Over the next
Lord.
decade, right? Which is actually true, that tuition does increase each year.
Yeah.
It may be different for obviously different universities, but when I went to school, like when I was a freshman, I remember speaking to like one of my teammates, and he was like, he was a senior. He said tuition was like almost double the amount that it was when he was a freshman.
Wow.
And so I was just like, man, like, it's really important that, or I wish that universities did more of a locked-in rate, so that way it's sort of like fair, like you go in and you leave with the amount that you started with versus it increasing. But hey, we can't, that's just how it is, and I wish that tuition didn't increase. So.
I mean, that's the other reason why I say it'll look a little bit different, because, college is a business.
Right.
And when a business no longer can, guarantee services or produce a good product. Not saying college isn't producing a good but when the profit, you're not really making a profit on this like stuff. And there's no benefit from the customer which is like students. There's really no reason to go. I mean, right now you can still kind of make a profit, but with wages, kind of being stagnant right now, and especially for entry level positions,
right?
And inflation and the cost of living going up, and the cost of tuition going up,
right?
It's that's why I say it'll almost be like, is it worth it? And I don't know. That might be 10 years from now. That might be 20 years from now. But I definitely think, we're gonna see some changes in higher education for sure.
Yeah, and we can't predict the future, so we'll just see what happens. But
I am not gonna lie. I hope the bubble bursts. I really do. And I'm not saying I don't want people to go to college, but I hope that, just like YouTube provided so many ways for people to become very wealthy, I hope there were other opportunities, that the common man has to really increase their income without, necessarily having to go to college, take out a lot of loans, and go into debt and work to repay that debt until they're 80.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I agree. So yeah, that's pretty much what we think that's going to happen in the next 10 years. I don't really, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the biggest, but what's the word? I can't think of the word.
Prediction.
Yeah, the biggest prediction that I have for the next 10 years for college.
We want to know from you too, like comment, like what do you think college is going to look like in the next 10 years? Like, are we tripping, or, do you think it'll look a little bit different, or do you think it'll be the same? Some people think like it's not going to change.
So now we are going to transition into now talking about things that nobody talks about in college. So as we mentioned, we went to social media. We asked the question, what's one thing that nobody told you about? So we were speaking specifically to alumni or for those who are actually in college right now. And so we did get a few responses. And one of the topics that somebody brought up was imposter syndrome. Man, that is a true one off the back. Imposter syndrome.
Wow. I mean, look, it's like, we could just be real, for as minorities, like that's something that we face in a lot of, white spaces. you know, a lot of corporate spaces. So it's like it doesn't even stop after college, you know. But I think that's definitely a lot of our first encounters, like with people who don't look like us, people who don't, you know, act like us, people who don't even eat like us, right? And, you know, when you get on a campus of thousands of people, you know, you can really start questioning like if you belong here or what your space or what your tribe looks like. And so that one is spot on for me. I remember, you know, stepping on DePaul's campus and I was just like, this is so many people, you know, and I actually I had an anxiety attack, like a mini anxiety attack my first day because I came from a small high school. Graduated from a small high school. I think my class was about 150 people. And then I went to community college where, you know, we're talking about maybe 2,000 people. But classes are still small. And going from that to a campus where there's about 15 to 17,000 people there on a daily basis. And I just remember having a panic attack because I couldn't find where anything was. My classes were downtown, and I mean, I've been downtown, but it's like it's different when you have to maneuver downtown. You have to maneuver transportation and different buildings, and different rooms in the buildings. And so it was so overwhelming.
Of course, it's always super overwhelming the first year. Of course, like as you become a sophomore or a junior, you're obviously more adapted to the space. You know where everything is. But I think the first day is the worst.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah, like you don't know anybody. First day.
You don't, nobody, everybody's too shy to talk, you know, outside of, that's why it's important to go to that's one thing I didn't do. DePaul had all those like pre-campus days, like where you could come and meet people, and I never went.
Like the orientations and stuff?
Yeah, like orientation, of course, but like, it was like actual like events like that they would put on, like dances and concerts and stuff like that where you could go to meet people, and I just didn't go.
Yeah. Or was there any days like leading up to the first day of school?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like they were events that were planned before.
And did you didn't take a tour of the school either? Like
I took a tour of the school. I had orientation, but even like on orientation, it's just like, you know,
the school is so big, right?
Yeah,
that it's hard to touch base on every single building
and
area.
to like meet people too. Yeah, like, you know, because you know DePaul has 2 campuses, so they have the big Lincoln Park campus. So I had to tour that, and then I had to tour the downtown campus. You know, and the downtown campus is a little bit more manageable, but
sounds like a lot of walking. It is. I went to a smaller college, so pretty much like, it took me 2 minutes to walk to class versus somebody saying it take them 20 minutes or they got to take a bus or something. So that's it. The first day, of course, was like still, I had a lot of anxiety, of course. But it was so small that it was not that hard to find. But at the same time, it was like, you know, you still have to go find certain classrooms, certain wings of buildings. And it was still like, somewhat frustrating. But for those of you who are not familiar with even imposter syndrome, from healthline.com, it gives a really great explanation of it, like symptoms that you may have, how to actually overcome it. And pretty much when you're in college, you find yourself struggling for the first time. So you might begin to believe that your classmates are all more intelligent, gifted. You might start to worry that you don't belong there. But you just know that you do belong there, that you matter, you're great. You don't have to feel insecure or have to have this perfectionist tendency, because that's one of the traits that they have. Yeah, so this website has really great information to go more in depth of the symptoms, how you can overcome it, and not let that overcome you.
Yeah. And sometimes we ask ourselves, like, why do people experience imposter syndrome, and who experiences imposter syndrome? And the thing is, like, it varies, you know. There's no single answers. Some experts believe like it has to do with your personality traits. Like if you have anxiety, that can trigger your anxiety can trigger imposter syndrome. If there's family or behavioral causes, like if you were raised to be perfect, that perfectionist thing, like that can contribute to it. But people often internalize the idea, and this comes from Time.com's article on imposter syndrome and how to deal with it. It says that people often internalize these ideas that in order to be loved or be lovable, I need to achieve. And this is like a podcast in and of itself, but so we won't dwell on this. This is like something where you need experts and to really dive into. But and the author says that it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle, and the author is Abigail Abrams, and this is a really good article because that's so true. Like sometimes you can feel like, especially going to college and being a first generation student, right? You can feel like if I don't achieve here, then nobody will deem me lovable, or nobody will be proud of me, or nobody will accept me, and that pressure to fail, is so much higher on first generation students, So imposter syndrome is real, and I'm really grateful that person answered that on our social media,
And she's a freshman, by the way. Should we just say it was our girl Bonita.
Our girl Bonita
from the last episode, or a lot of you who already know her. Yeah. She's a first year, first semester, so she's probably experiencing that right now. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty much holding yourself at high standards.
And it's good to do that, but like we'll kind of talk about
in a healthy way.
Yeah, like we'll talk about later. There's balance in all things. You know.
Should we do one more, or should we do all of them?
Let's do another one.
Okay. So another one is the amount of free resources. So nobody really tells you about the free stuff that they have on the quad for free. So like laptop rentals. Sometimes they even have like books, if I'm not mistaken. But they usually have like a lot of games, and you can win prizes and things like that as well.
A lot of free T-shirts, man.
A lot of free T-shirts.
I have so many free DePaul shirts.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's good. It's like even like tutoring, and there was like, depending on your major, like they'll even give you access to softwares, and discounts to different things like that. So it's important to even ask about that,
Right.
Sometimes you can even get your textbooks for free, online, and things like study guides and all that stuff. I've had access to that, so. Which
will save you tons. So remember that. Man. Like, people always think about tuition, but you also have to remember the other expenses that you have in college. So, like, of course, we just said, like, buying textbooks, supplies, things of that nature. So,
yeah, there's a ton of expenses outside of tuition, room and board if you stay on campus, like one thing, I wasn't prepared for is how much it costs to feed yourself outside of your meal plan. Sometimes like DePaul's, I didn't have the meal plan my first year, but I paid for it the second year. But even then, the cafe was not open on Saturday and Sunday. And I would still need to eat those days too, especially when I was filming. And so it was like, well, no, you have to pay for that out of your pocket. And it's like, with what money?
Hopefully, I mean, it's the thing I loved about being a college student is the discounts. Yeah. So like certain places, they had deals. I know, especially close to like my school. Yeah. They had restaurants that were like 10% off if you're a student. So I definitely took advantage of those because you really are like, you don't have no money.
I did a lot of broke boy stuff in college. Like on the back of receipts, they're like, "We'll fill this survey out and we'll give you a free side."
Come on, like who wouldn't take advantage of that?
I haven't done that since I graduated college. Thank God. But I mean, those free sides came in clutch a lot of those days. So yeah. And we can just do one more. So something somebody else said was the culture shock, especially going to a HBCU. It's so much variety with Black culture people. That's
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a culture shock, when, if it's an HBCU for sure, but also, any college you go to.
So that includes PWIs,
PWIs,
which is predominantly white institutions.
Yeah, Hispanic institutions, anything. Like, college is so much different from anything you've ever done in your educational life before. There's so much. I just wasn't prepared for how much freedom there was. There's so much structure in elementary school, in junior high, and high school. Go to the bathroom this time, eat this time, and so it was just like, no, like, you really control your schedule. And like I said, there are people who look nothing like you, who act nothing like you, who talk nothing like you, and you have to go to class with these people. You have to study with these people. You have to, organize and volunteer with these people.
And as you're in college, like, you'll learn, of course, about more of these cultures, especially if you take certain classes. Like, I took a racial class, I believe, just to learn more, of course, about different cultures and races and things like that. So yeah, it's a pretty big shock, especially the first year.
But you have to be open to. You can't let the shock overwhelm you.
Right.
You have to be open to learning new things about new people and expanding your horizons, expanding your taste buds. And, which I think a lot of college students do. But yeah, I can see what she means with the HBCU portion too, because there are so many subcultures within Black culture.
Right.
There's Southern Black culture. There's Midwest Black culture. There's East West Black culture. So all those people come and they converge on the one campus. And you learn even more about your culture.
And it's really nice too.
I think that's a beautiful thing.
Right.
One of the positives of going to an HBCU.
Definitely. So yeah, thank y'all for y'all questions. We appreciate them.
Absolutely.
And all of this definitely leads into our next few topics for things that nobody tells you in college.
Yeah.
So the first topic that we're going to talk about is relationships and friendships. So something specifically is roommates. I feel like this one is a big one because nobody really talks about, like, we just talked about the cultural difference. So like, if you're with a certain roommate that is completely has a different culture than you, of course it's a shock to you, but like I kind of feel like it's sort of a pressure to sort of be
really good friends.
Yeah. And that's something that nobody really talks about for sure.
I mean, that person is living literally 3 feet away from you on an average. Yeah, like, sometimes less.
Or if y'all have bunk beds, like, they're right underneath you.
They're literally living above you, and they're asking 2 18-year-olds to coexist. Sometimes from different, some colleges do a really good job of matching up, students, and they have, like, again, events where they can meet their roommate before. Prior. But it's still hard to move in with somebody, you know.
Especially if you're like an only child or something, maybe.
Hello.
You was an only child?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, I grew up with siblings, so it wasn't that big of an adjustment, but still, like.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can be the neat freak and everything is organized, and your roommate is the messiest person you'll ever live with, So I think college, man, like, you can't argue and handle your business like you used to. You know, like, you can't. The thing can't be to just, like, let's fight it out, like, let's duke it out. I done told you to wash these dishes. I done told you to stop leaving and stuff, because they'll get you out of it, like, real quick. You know, so even, like, loud disagreements, like, I've seen people suspended from campus and expelled from campus for that.
But you also
even
can't
put on academic probation,
Right. You also can't be passive aggressive.
That's also a horrible way to handle things.
It is. So it's pretty much just a good idea to have that open communication with your roommate, especially trying to figure out and learn more about them anyway. But yeah, it's a big deal that people make about trying to pretty much have that pressure of them being, like, your best friend.
Yeah. And I guess that's the main tip we want you to understand when it comes to roommates, right? Your roommate may or may not be your best friend, and you can't romanticize the idea of your roommate being your best friend. If they might literally be somebody
that you're just cordial with,
or that repulses you. You know, you have to be okay with that. And you have to take the steps to, you know, remove yourself from that situation, or put up with it until the next semester or until the living situation changes.
Right. Or if there's like a situation where like you're not comfortable or that you can't really handle, then of course like talk to your RA or somebody who can, you know, help you out of that situation. But pretty much like the expectation is not to really think of them as like a lifelong friend. Like it can happen. Yeah, it can definitely happen for sure.
How'd you get along with your first roommate? I'm
not
curious.
You trying to be messy.
Yeah, I am. I'm not gonna lie.
You want me to just be honest? Like be completely honest?
I want you to lie.
Oop. So pretty much like the situation with my roommate, it started off okay, but I went to a PWI, so a predominantly white institution, and it was a situation where my roommate was my teammate, and she was a different race. She was white. Let's just go ahead and say, and so I feel like it was a culture shock to her. Of different things I listened to, like the way I talk, and so she grew up in like an all white neighborhood.
Rural.
yes. And so like she even admitted to me that it was a situation where she grew up in a high school where of course like it was rural, and they only had like one black person, let's just go ahead and say, and it was just a situation where she just was pretty much not used to black culture or how to, I guess, what's the word, like she didn't know how to, I guess, speak, interact yes with a black person. Yeah. So it was definitely hard because I experienced a little bit of racism, but I was able to talk to my coach about it. We came to a mutual understanding of it. She said that it was not intentional at all. She didn't mean to hurt me, of course. And I completely forgave her from the whole situation. We just became really mutual. We went our separate ways, had different rooms, just, you know, for respect purposes. But yeah, that was pretty much my situation. I don't want to go too in depth with it, but I experienced a little bit of that, and it was not uncomfortable. So I just had to make that step to, one, talk to my coach, so that she can at least understand like why I wasn't, you know, a certain type of way in practice. Yeah. Yes. And then make sure I just talk to my RA to get the living situation changed, of course, so that I was comfortable living there.
It's not all rose petals and
right.
and birthday cake every day.
Right.
You know?
Now, it's, you know, I'm not trying to scare y'all either for those who are not in college. Like, it won't be, I don't know if y'all seen the movie Roommate, like the situation where the roommate was trying to become the other person. It won't be that extreme, but we're just trying to prepare you for any situation that you might come to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was my situation. I don't know how yours was.
Well, you know, I didn't really live on campus.
Oh yeah.
My friends would let me stay with them though, when I had like late night stuff. But yeah, I didn't really live on campus, so yeah. Well, I can imagine. I remember seeing the freshman dorms though when I got to DePaul, and I was
they're so small.
Wow. I'm so sorry for you guys.
And that's the thing too, like living with somebody is hard because y'all already in like a box.
A literal box.
Right. And it's not that much space to move around. Imagine me, I had a lot of stuff. So you coming in with a whole bunch of stuff, you trying to make it work.
You literally can't fit everything.
You literally can't fit anything. All you need is a couple jeans and a couple sweaters, to be honest. But yeah, it's already, that's what makes certain situations even harder, because it's like you're literally right next to this person almost all day. Man. But me being her teammate, like we was together almost 24/7 as freshmen, taking the same classes and practice together, living together. So it was a lot to handle, but we overcame the situation. Right. So
that's good.
So now moving on to the next subtopic with friendships and relationships. We pretty much have that making friends is easy, but keeping them is harder.
Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and dive in?
I mean, when we were planning that, I think that's what we were saying. Like, it's so easy to make friends in college. Just once you get there and once you start immersing yourself in the campus and going to different events, going to things that spark your interest and things that you love to do, you're gonna meet people because you're going to things that other people find similarities. Even if it's class, you're finding similarities and struggle. And struggle to pass that class. So making friends is really easy, but it's so much different from high school because really your friends in high school, barring a big argument or just some childish stuff, are gonna be your friends from freshman year to senior year.
Right.
But in college there's really and it's so funny, there's a real possibility that you can meet somebody first semester, get real close, go to all parties together, go to all the events together, really just love this person. And second semester, your classes are different, your schedules are different, and so you don't see them as much, and you really just drift apart. And it's so easy to kind of take that personally, but and internalize it and think like nobody likes me, but like that's not true. It's just keeping your friendships. It takes a lot more work.
It is,
and a lot more patience.
And just being in college, like you literally have so much going on that's why sometimes it's hard to maintain those friendships. Some friendships are harder than others. Like some people may want more attention, more of your time, but you just have to remember that the priority is school or sometimes other tasks that you may have.
Your education has to be your first priority. And oftentimes you find your bonds with people who, especially when you get older, they're focused on getting their degree. I think your freshman year, a lot of like people who are kind of serious about college are there, but when you start getting to your junior year, it's like people who are really focused on finishing. And I feel like that's where really your friends come from.
I agree.
I had really good friends at Prairie State, and I still talk to them to this day. And some of them transferred to DePaul with me too. So we were really close. But I just started getting serious about my degree, which means I was spending more time with people who were in my major.
Right.
That's often times where your close friends will come from, especially when you're in a field where it requires a lot of collaboration, like film, and the medical field where there's a lot of time spent studying together and forming study groups.
Absolutely.
And, I've even heard from medical people like they, spend weeks together, just studying together. And a bond can be formed from that.
And I mean, some friends are meant to be here for a season.
Absolutely.
Some are meant to be here for a lifetime. You'll know by the end of college.
And college is all about accepting that.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. And pretty much the only other thing that we have to talk about is just being yourself. Don't do too much trying to make friends. Like you don't have to. What's the word? I'm thinking.
I think I know what you're trying to say, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
I think you just basically don't overextend yourself trying to, fit in every crowd and every group.
Right.
Because every group is not for you. And you all might be saying, well, y'all are like education. What does this have to do with, education? This is literally college prep. Like this has so much to do with your success in college, because there are people who overpromise themselves. They'll try and they want to be in this crowd and this frat and this sorority, and it may just not work. And I'm not telling anybody not to pledge anything or not to join a group. But what I'm saying is, if it's not working, it's not working for a reason.
Right.
If those people aren't genuine with you upon impact,
right.
they're not your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people will prove in college, they will prove to you if they like you
Mm-hmm.
based off of their actions,
Right.
not what they say.
Right.
You know,
And even after college,
yeah.
like a lot of people change, you
Yeah.
know, not everybody is supposed to stay the same. Some
Right.
people, those people who stay stagnant, like they're not really growing as a person. And some people don't really understand that, like, you have different priorities now or things like that. And, you know, the right people will understand that,
Yeah.
and will stay along with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's important to, I say this, like, allow your tribe to find you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Your friends that you find in college, oftentimes you guys are lifelong because, you know, you have so many similar interests and there's so
Mm-hmm.
much time to find those similar interests.
Right.
You know, and just there's so much harm in trying to be somebody that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you can.
It's so much harder.
It's so much
to
work.
Try to pretend to be somebody else.
And that's where a lot of people get lost in the sauce.
Mm-hmm.
You know, trying to go to every event, go to every party, go to every step show, go to every, just trying to be liked.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and college cannot be about that. College
Right.
cannot just be about being liked. You know,
just focus on what's important, and the right people and the right opportunities will come your way.
Absolutely.
To summarize it.
So, be yourself, friends.
Yes, be
if
yourself.
we have to say anything.
And lastly, just don't be afraid to build those relationships with counselors.
Yes.
And important people that can lead you to great success after college.
Yeah. References are so important in the job world, and experience is so important. And so it's important to make friendships with, you know, your peers. Yes. But it's also important to, if you have a really good professor, you know, lock them in. You know, I got so much business based off of my cinematographer, professor. Shout out Mark Monet, my boy. Amazing cinematographer. But it's important. Like, it's okay, like, to build relationships with appropriate relationships.
Right. Let's emphasize that, because
hey, y'all know what I mean. I'm not apologizing for that statement, man. It's important to build appropriate relationships with your professors. You know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
that just threw me off.
Hey, man.
But it's important to mention those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was gonna say something else, but I'm not.
Yeah, but like we said, it's important to build relationships, appropriate relationships with professors, because they can take you so far. You know, and like Doc was saying, if people believe in you, you know, they'll support you in college, but they'll also support you beyond college.
They'll vouch for you.
They will write letters of recommendation for jobs, for internships,
right?
And so, like, yes, friendships and relationships with your peers are important, but friendships and relationships with your professors, and even, like, if you can get into SSS programs and support programs at the college, like, those relationships will take you a long way.
Right. Agreed. So yeah, and now we're gonna just transition into talking about maintaining health, which is very important. So let's talk about it. First things first, freshman 15.
Man,
it's not a joke
at all. I honestly had like a freshman 25.
It's a real thing. Yeah. Even as an athlete, I still gained the 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people could argue, oh, it's probably muscle, like, from working out. I mean, it could have been, but at the same time, it was still other weight. Like,
yeah.
But it comes from pretty much not, like, in high school, you're pretty much active. Like, it's a requirement to take gym, right? Mm-hmm. But in college, it's not. Yeah. You literally have to make yourself go. Like, you have to be dedicated.
And you can eat whenever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Some colleges, like Notre Dame, they have a buffet system where you can not only eat whenever you want, but however much you want.
Yeah.
You know, DePaul was not like that. I'm actually glad they weren't.
Something that contributed to that freshman 15 was honestly, so St. Xavier, they force freshmen to get the highest meal plan. which is like a whole lot of money,
Yeah.
and you are not you cannot roll over that money
So
at the end of the semester, so you have to use it. So pretty much that freshman 15 came from being forced to spend the money on all of that food.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was some benefits that came out of it. Like some of my friends who commuted, I was able to swipe for them, pay for their meal, because I'm like, girl, I have way too much money. I do not need to eat all this food. So yeah, it was pretty much like you were forced to eat 3-4 times a day to get through that money. So yeah, it's not a joke, and you're pretty much. I feel like it's bound to happen.
I mean, you know, your physical health is just as important as your mental health. Like we say, prioritize your mental health. Yes. You know, but staying active, you know, a lot of the colleges have amazing gyms that have free workouts. You know, I feel like I was in some of the best shape of my life in college because I was like walking across campus with a heavy book bag with a, you know, computer that felt like 15 pounds at the time. And I was walking across campus. I was walking to catch trains and all this stuff. And then after all that, like I would go to shout out the Ray at DePaul, the Ray Meyer Center, and work out all the time, pick up basketball games, and it's a lot of fun to stay. You can eat a lot in college, but you also can stay really active in college too.
Yeah, it's definitely it's doable.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more doable in the beginning. Like you have like that syllabus week. Sure. It's really light, but then as you get towards the end with midterms, final exams, you have a lot of other things that you have to balance. Of course, it can get a little harder. You stay up late at night, you snack. That also plays a part into it, but it's definitely doable, and we encourage you to maintain a healthy.
But the freshman 15 is inevitable.
It is.
You know, you hear about it all the time, but we're here to tell you it's unavoidable. Unless you commute. I didn't gain that. I mean, like you transfer. Like in my first 2 years, I didn't really gain too much. Just because, you know, there was no meal plan at Prairie State. They just had one cafe where you had to buy food, and I was not buying food every day.
Right. You maybe ate at home, which is a benefit of commuting.
It's a big benefit of commuting.
Diner food was not that great.
It's not.
But yeah, so we'll have some resources linked in the description for you all to touch base more on that. Something else we want to sort of touch base on today that nobody really talks about is balancing. So organizing your schedule, making time for yourself, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pulling up.
No, you're fine. I think it's super important. Like obviously we said like you have to organize your schedule, right? But it's important to organize your schedule based on the type of person you are. That is a huge factor when it comes to college success. You shouldn't just take an 8 a.m. class just because there's an 8 a.m. class. You shouldn't just take an 8 p.m. class just because there's an 8 p.m. class available. You know,
it depends on how it works for you.
Yeah,
so like some people work during the day and they would prefer to have night classes because it works better for their schedule. Or some people are just morning people and they would just rather have their classes early throughout the day.
So it's important to organize your schedule based on the type of person you are. If you enjoy breaks and naps during the middle of the day like me, like I became an avid napper.
Yes.
In college. Because it really helped you finish out the day strong. You know, getting that 1 or 2:30 nap in was so clutch.
I'll find the article, but it was this one thing I read, like if you take a 22-minute nap, 22 minutes specifically, that's the perfect nap. It's enough.
It's too short.
Well, yeah, I mean it depends on the person, but it was said that it's the perfect nap because it's the right amount of time so that you're not like too deep in sleep, which is probably what you did, like sleeping for like an hour or something. But
hour and a half every time.
I mean, I take 4 hour naps now.
That's why you're up until like 3 a.m. every day.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm not ashamed of it. If I'm tired, I'm tired.
If you're tired, you're tired.
Yeah, I found some research that says like a 22-minute nap is like perfect amount of time. So I was an avid napper as well.
Yeah. I mean, you really, because like Oh, that's another like thing I would not recommend is scheduling your classes back to back to back. You know, oftentimes you have like 2 to 3 classes on any given days, and if you're lucky, you might have an off day someday. Some days.
Yeah, like the beginning when I first started out in college, I had my schedule like back to back, but then I started to learn that spreading it out was way better.
Yeah.
That way I had more time to myself to work for another class, so that I wasn't rushing. Because having back to back, I kind of felt like it was too much pressure. Like,
so I know like oftentimes you'll take anywhere from 4 to 5 classes. So having Monday, Wednesday, Friday be your heavy load where you might have 4 classes, and then Tuesday and Thursday you just have 1 class. Like that goes a long way, you know, because you're giving yourself time to have that rest and that balance,
right?
You know, that we just talked about. It's you have to like, that goes into our next point of making time for yourself. You know, you have to organize your schedule that in a way that you have that time for yourself, because you can get overwhelmed. You know, it was I just remember like my senior year, I had Tuesday and Friday off, and my GPA was so much higher my senior year because I had those days to myself to where I could get up late, get to campus late, work out when I get to campus, and I don't even have class until 2:00.
Right.
You know, I went to work too, you know, and it was just a breeze. It was a breeze because when I got to class, I was rejuvenated. I had my lunch and everything, and when I was done, it was the end of the day. And I'm not saying every semester is going to be like that, because you still should be taking 15 credits every semester, you know, and to graduate on time, you know.
And also just making time for yourself also just ensures that, like you said, you have that break, but just so you can, I lost my train of thought.
Balance.
Yeah, just balance, because I mean, I'm an introvert, so I know I don't like to be around a lot of people all day, every day. So having that time to myself gives me time to breathe and to relax.
Your social clock expires in college really easily too.
Right. Like, you're literally around people all day, and goes back into our point with the roommate. Like, sometimes they may be right next to you. Like,
you literally want to be alone, but you cannot be alone.
I mean, hey, I had a conversation with a roommate before and said, hey, is it okay if we like sort of schedule times where we can have like the room to ourselves? Like, we had that conversation because we just wanted to, you know, have that
alone time,
which is totally fine. And it worked out best for both of us. Like, sometimes we would go home, give each other a break, which is creating that healthy balance.
Love that. Love that. That's good stuff.
And then something else that you all should remember is continuing to apply for scholarships during college. So a lot of people stop applying because they like, oh, I have enough. But as we mentioned in the beginning, tuition may increase. Yeah. So to pretty much make sure that you have what you need covered, we encourage you to continue applying for those scholarships. Specifically, like for me, I knew that because with my situation, I wanted to continue applying for scholarships to cover the cost of college. And with doing so, I was able to gain like art scholarships that were able to cover some of that tuition. So just pretty much taking advantage of those opportunities that you have in front of you. Some of those scholarships that you need might not even come until like after your first year or your second year. So it's important to continue doing research while you're in school.
Absolutely. And if you're going to apply, make sure your GPA stays up, you know, at least a 3.3, you know, because that's a lot of the requirements for, you know, continuing college students. They want to really, when somebody is funding your education in college, they want to know that they're investing in somebody who's going to finish,
who's dedicated,
but somebody who's going to finish and be successful in their career path. So Make sure that your social media image is clean, and that you're posting all the good things that you do.
Take advantage of LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I love about a lot of our Upper Bound alumni is when I see them online, like they're volunteering, they're sharing their experiences in college and being real about the experience in college, and I feel like that's going a long way for them. So
and it's also a really good look for a future job for people who are going to hire you in the future. It's starting to become like social media is becoming the new resume.
Absolutely.
In a way. That's why it's important to keep it clean, continue to stay active, post your accomplishment achievements. We love to keep an update on you all, so we love to see it, of course.
Yeah.
Just making sure that you continue applying for those scholarships, taking advantage of different opportunities that you may come across. Yeah. Don't think any amount is too small. Like you may be like, oh, this scholarship is only $2,000, $500. It does, especially in the end.
Yeah, and it's important to look on when you're in college. It's important to look at scholarships based on your major.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, for incoming freshmen, the scholarship search can be more general and more broad. But that's probably where you'll see the most success is scholarships based on the area of study that you're going to study in.
Right, and that's why we also was talking about building those relationships with a lot of your professors and everything, because as you get more in depth into your career field, they'll even tell you about certain opportunities and scholarships that may be available for you.
Yeah.
So.
And keep in mind, like, what makes you unique as a student, right? What is it that is setting you apart? Is it you being a first generation? Is it you being, an immigrant student, a dreamer? Look at those things that make you unique, whether it's a hobby or a passion or extra skill set that you have, and target people that are doing that, write different companies, write different businesses and churches, and, write home, you never know. But you have to still be lucrative, but the scholarship search, I think that's one thing that they didn't tell me, is that the scholarship search definitely continues when you're in college,
Absolutely.
And that's why one of our scholarships is like super clutch, the Matthew Dry scholarship, because it's for $1,000 for 4 years. That's amazing. So.
And we have a link tree that includes a lot of scholarships each month. So we definitely encourage you to take advantage of that. Go ahead and check out that list of new scholarships and go ahead and apply.
Absolutely. And just some more tips, be sure to apply all year long. There's not a right time to apply in college. Obviously there are deadlines, but you should be looking all year long.
Right.
And again, the difference between high school and college is that there's a scholarship season, for when you're trying to get scholarships when you're a senior, junior, or senior. But in college, you should be looking all year long.
Right.
So that's really important. And then apply for renewable scholarships. And for my high school seniors, target renewable scholarships. Because again, tuition is increasing year by year. But also when you may get a $20,000 scholarship, but it's only for 1 year, and now you have to try to supplement that $20,000 sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Right.
So that's all I have, Miss DeAndre.
That's all I have too, Mr. McKenty. Any other announcements that you can think of?
No. Like I said. Like I always say, if you haven't filled out your FAFSA yet, that's okay. Get professional help. Don't fill it out by yourself, please. You can call us, schedule a consultation at calendly.com/FASIA. You also can DM us or call us at 70. You can DM us on social media, but you can call us at 708-210-1771. I almost forgot our office number. But you can also DM us on social media with any questions you have, and we have people standing by who can help with that.
Absolutely.
So
there's no more announcements from me. We're happy to help, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to assist you in any way we can.
100%.
So, yeah, that's all the announcements and information that we're happy to share with you
Join
today,
us next week. We post these every week. Be sure to keep DMing us questions and concerns and anything that you have. We want to address it on here. So
yeah, and we love to hear your thoughts and opinions. So
absolutely.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we'll see you and talk to you next time.
Peace.